The Brian Hoffman interview. Now is the time. For those of you who aren't into death metal and don't know who Brian Hoffman is, Brian Hoffman is one of the founding members of Deicide and is now has a band Amon with his brother Eric Hoffman. He also has a custom guitar company, which I think is really fucking cool. A lot of people don't know about it, and I thought it would be interesting for people to hear more about what an amazing guitarist is doing now. Here is the interview with Brian Hoffman on Metal Nation Radio. United We Rock. So we have Brian Hoffman on the Metal Sanctuary today on Metal Nation Radio. How are you doing, Brian?
Doing great. How about you?
Great. For our listeners, Brian has quite the musical history. He is one of the founding members of Deicide. That self-titled album from 24 years ago was considered to be very revolutionary for death metal, bringing a considerably heavier and darker feel to death metal. And a lot of it was attributed to the dual guitar work of you and your brother, Eric. Also, you have a band now called Amon. And I find it really interesting because originally, a lot of people wouldn't know this, Deicide started as Amon, and then the name was changed. And then later on, you and Eric resurrected the band Amon. You had a release in 2012 called Liar in Wait. Anything coming up with Amon right now?
Actually, I'm working on another project right now, but I still have pretty much finished up guitar work on one song, solos and everything. So it's just a small project that I'm starting on myself.
Oh, so we have something interesting and new to look forward to from you.
Yeah, I kind of just stepped away from music for quite a while, just because I've had a lot of bad dealings with everybody. But I might as well give it a go one more time because I like to do it. It's fun, and that's why I got into music in the first place. It wasn't for money. It was because I wanted to play music I wanted to hear.
Well, and I think a lot of people would love to hear more music from you because you are such an amazing guitarist, and I know you do have a following of people who absolutely love your guitar work. So I'll be interested to see what you're coming up with. Do you have any idea? Are you going to be doing a release of it, doing any kind of touring with it, or any plans yet at all?
Right now, it's just in the mix, kind of just starting. So
okay,
really it's going to be a while.
Okay, well, I'll keep my eyes open for that. One of the big things I wanted to talk to you about today is your Brian Hoffman custom guitars. I don't know if a lot of people know that that's what you're doing right now. What inspired you to start making guitars?
Well, I always repaired most of my guitars myself when I was younger and playing my guitars, and just always was infatuated with how guitars were built, how they work, and how many different types of sounds you can get out of a guitar. Mm-hmm. And I pretty much started I designed the Beast for BC Rich. That's pretty much where I really wanted to start building guitars myself. That's when Neil Moser contacted me, and we became really good friends, and he invited me up to teach me how to build guitars.
Wow, that's pretty amazing, because he is legendary. Like, what an amazing person to help you get into building guitars. Wow.
Yeah, he's a very, very nice person. It was a real pleasure working with him, and he showed me so much. It was amazing. And from then on, it was just like I had to build guitars. I still, had the passion to play guitar, but I really wanted to build them. So.
Yeah. Do you continue to work with him now occasionally, or do you mainly do stuff on your own? Or
he taught me, and I was going to go work with him, but I ended up working for Dean Guitars because it was closer to my house. I was already living, close to Tampa, and so I pretty much stayed in the area. I didn't want to, uproot the family and move all the way to California because it was pretty expensive to live there.
Yes,
so it wasn't going to work out. But yeah, I started to work with Dean Guitars, and I worked there for about 7 years, and then I decided to just go out on my own and just start building guitars again. That's pretty much what I'm doing full time.
Amazing. I'm wondering, did you have any kind of carpentry background, or are you all pretty much self-taught, and then having Neil help you, etc.?
Well, yeah, I had just when I was younger, I had some tools and chisels and things like that, but not really up until that point. Not until Neil really showed me how to build guitars. I actually built one before I met him, but it was pretty much the neck was already built, and I just glued the sides on, and it kind of started like that. But yeah, the infatuation of building guitars just couldn't stop, and now I have to build them all the time.
Awesome. How would you describe your style of guitars, or can you really put any kind of description on what you build?
Well, so far, pretty much all my guitars are pointy. They're for metal. Mm-hmm. They look for stuff like that. I've been building some 7 strings, but yeah, I can build Stratocaster shaped guitars. I can build Les Pauls, and I can build pretty much anything. But what people ask me to build is what I build, and it seems to be pointy V's, the Scarab design that I have, mm-hmm. and a couple others. Savage also that my brother played in the I played the Savage, and my brother played the Scarab in the Among Us video.
Yeah, well, excellent.
So those were some of the guitars that I do build, but mainly pointy guitars.
What is the process for creating a guitar? I can't even imagine. Like how do you start? Or is that a tough question?
Yeah, a lot of tools and a lot of pre-measuring. You just got to keep measuring things so you don't mess it up, because it's not cheap.
Yeah.
But, it's just a lot of practice.
So, pretty much all your work is custom. Then, is that correct?
Yeah, every one of my guitars are made to order, and if I don't have a guitar that I'm building for a customer, then I build one for myself, and usually by the time I finish building it, it's sold.
So what do you do? Do some people want to sit down and really consult with you as to what they want, or do they just give you kind of an idea and then you run with it, or how do you take that request for a custom guitar and build?
I definitely take on some picky customers.
I can imagine.
Yeah, definitely. You really have to listen to them and just hear what they really, really want. And sometimes you just have to go back to them and ask them, because a friend of mine, one of his guitars that I started on, he just kept on changing his mind, and so we talked it out and we figured out exactly what he wanted, and sometimes it just takes time to figure out how people play the guitar, because everybody plays the guitar a little differently.
Yes.
Action-wise, the way, because, a Les Paul and a Stratocaster are totally two different guitars when it comes to the string tension on a guitar and so forth. So you really have to be particular in talking to somebody and in knowing what they really want in a guitar to take care of that.
Do you have a favorite material that you like to use, or does it just depend on what you're creating?
I like to go, especially lately, on the really exotic woods or wood that just looks really crazy.
I love those. They're some of my favorite. I always am drooling over guitars. I think I have like guitar porn on Facebook, and I'm always like going, oh, look at the wood on that guitar. There's just amazing, some of the woods available.
Yeah, it's definitely fun to pick them out, and the one that I'm building right now is made out of redwood lace pearl.
Oh, I saw that.
Pretty
Gorgeous.
crazy. So it's fun, and Claro walnut, and certain Paduke and Wingay and all these different types of wood. Mm-hmm. It's fun to work with it, and purple heart too. That's a pain in the ass because it's really hard, but yeah, I definitely like to work with everything possible. It seems that not too many people use wood binding, but I like the way it looks, so I do that a lot on my personal guitars.
The wood that you choose, does that kind of dictate what the finish is going to be like, or even sometimes the overall design of the guitar, or do you just kind of fit the guitar to the wood, or how does that really work with that?
Usually, I picture it. Certain guitars, it usually starts with the wood itself, or of course, what you're about to build.
Yeah.
Usually if it's a fancy looking wood, I paint it, either a transparent color or just natural.
Mm-hmm. Do you do the painting yourself, or do you have someone that does that work for you?
On my first guitars, I painted them all in lacquer, nitrocellulose lacquer, and that's really tedious, and it sucks. I'll do it if I have to, but I just don't have time to do it right now. And also my garage is full of sawdust, so I actually have Mo Colors in Tampa paint my guitars.
Oh, well, that's good. So then you can just concentrate more on the design and let them do some of that finishing work for you.
Yeah, he does really good work.
Do you have any favorite pickups that you like to use for guitars, or again, does that depend on the person that you're building the guitar for?
Yeah, that depends on the person that I'm building the guitar for, but personally, I like to use Seymour Duncan, like a JB and a 59 combination, or, ever since I worked with Dean, they make custom pickups, and I've been lucky enough to be hooked up with DMT pickups, so they sound really, really good. I've pretty much every guitar that I've been happy with throwing a set of those in.
Oh, that's good. It's good to find something that you like working with, definitely. So, you've worked with Noel Moser. Have you worked with any other guitar designers at all?
No, not really, no.
Well, there you go. That was an easy one. Now, I have a question. With the guitar work that you're doing on your own, have you ever been approached by any manufacturers since you've had Brian Hoffman custom guitars to actually do any designs for them, or are you just kind of going on your own and continuing that way?
Yeah, I haven't been approached. I would be interested in something like that because it's difficult as a one-man company to put out enough guitars to get them into the public's hands. Mm-hmm. That would be awesome to have somebody that could have some sort of financial support for that. But I don't mind being a small company, honestly. Yeah. It's not that bad. Because I don't get complaints from my guitars because I make sure that they go out the door perfect, and I don't live too far away from most of them, so I can fix them stuff.
Yeah. Well, I know right now you're working on a custom neck for a band that I do quite a bit of work with, Randy Rancid from the Vegas Rhythm Kings, and he's been so excited that you're doing this neck for him for his beloved signature V hybrid guitar. That's all he talks about, so that must be interesting working with a band. They're in Australia, so quite far away. He
conned me into building him a neck. I don't usually do stuff like that, but why not? If he wants it, not that difficult to build a neck for him, and I said that I would do it, so that's fine. Yeah. He's a nice guy, so it's going to work out.
Yeah. I do have a question. Have you ever attended NAMM at all, the National Association of Music Merchants?
Yes. Once, I think it was 2004, I did with Neil Moser guitars when I had the Beastmaster out. And that's one of the designs that Neil Moser and I co-designed together. But BC Rich went after us about that. stirred up a bunch of stuff, so we dropped it, and it's not that big of a deal. He switched it around and turned it around into the Spawn.
Yeah.
Which everybody knows about.
Had you ever, I had a couple listeners that knew that I was going to be interviewing you, and they were wondering if you would ever be attending NAMM, or had you ever considered attending it again in the future, under your own company name?
Oh, I would love to. Eventually, I mean, that I would hope that eventually will come about, but it takes a while,
Mm-hmm.
Being one man operation right now, it's pretty difficult. Hopefully, eventually, when I get more orders, I can hire a few people and get the ball rolling.
Yeah. So, if people want to have you design a guitar for them, how would they get in contact with you?
You can go to BrianHoffmanCustomGuitars.com and you fill out the information form and tell me exactly what you want, what type of wood. Anything in particular that you want custom, from inlays to you name it. It doesn't matter, your front wire and all that stuff. And I can get right back and give you a quote.
Excellent. Well, that's great to know, because I know there are some people interested in contacting you. I'm wondering, what words can you give to any up-and-coming guitar designers? Or is there anything that you can think of? Because, I mean, you've had an interesting road to get to where you are so far, and everybody has a different path. But are there some words of wisdom maybe you could give to an up-and-coming designer?
Boy, that's a hard one. I mean, it's really difficult to design a new type of guitar. Yeah, I guess if you have the imagination, go for it. I mean, nothing can stop you if that's what you want to do. But there's not much money in it. You got to really love it. You just really have to love it, because that's just the way it is. I mean, most of my money that I make is from guitar repairs also.
Oh, there you go.
A lot of the time, so that also, if anybody ever needs refrets or anything like that, fret levels and whatever's broken on their guitar, I can usually fix it. So that definitely helps. You got to definitely know what you're doing when it comes to with the guitar. Just you can't just draw something out and think, oh wow, that looks cool, because sometimes it just doesn't work.
Well, and I can imagine, playing the guitar definitely, I would say, probably helps with being able to repair guitars and build them. I mean, not everybody can do it, but obviously you've been able to translate that amazing skill into what you're doing now.
Yeah, for sure. It's the trial and error. I've made some crazy guitars and I've messed up a lot of stuff, but made some really fat, thick necks that people just laughed at. It's funny. I enjoy big fat. The fat neck actually sounds better to me sonically than a really thin, paper thin neck, like let's say Rusty Cooley, for instance. Those necks are so thin, but they also EMGs. That's another thing. Active pickups. There's just certain people like certain things, and that's why I build my own guitars.
Yeah, well, there you go. So you can get what you want and help other people get that sound too. I have one other question. It's unrelated to guitars, and it's a question that I like asking when I'm doing interviews. Of course, in metal, in thrash metal, you have the big four of metal, but I always like to ask, and it can be from any genre of metal, and actually we've had people say, does it have to be from metal? But what would your big four for metal be, or your big four influential bands, or however you want to look at it? What would yours be?
My big four influential bands would be, I guess from the beginning, it was Black Sabbath. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I was able to listen to any heavy stuff, I would say I pretty much, the first really heavy stuff was Metallica, but as soon as I got a hold of Destruction, Sodom, pretty much a lot of the German thrash bands, mm-hmm. Creator, I was hooked. That was it.
Yeah, and then did you just use that as an inspiration to create the music that you have? Seems like you took it a step further, obviously, than a lot of those bands did.
When I was younger, I picked up the guitar and spent a lot of time with it. When I was 15, I wrote Sacrificial Suicide. That was the first song I ever wrote. I was 15, and then Lunatic of God's Creation came right after that. I was about 16, so I started early. I started writing early. I started listening to music early, and just self-taught most of it, you know. Of course, my brother would teach me once in a while.
Yeah.
But most of all, I was pretty much self-taught.
Well, that's really interesting. Seems like there's a few people out there like that, and I guess then that kind of helps you create your own sound and your own style for sure.
Yeah, it definitely helps.
Well, I just wanted to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to speak with me. I'm really looking forward to hearing to your new project and to more music from Amon, and maybe the opportunity of seeing you play live sometime. I'm also looking forward to seeing more of your guitar designs. I'm definitely going to be checking out what you're working on because I find it really, really fascinating. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Celeste. I appreciate it.
I must die.
Well, there you have the interview with Brian Hoffman, of one of the founding members of Deicide and Amon, and the creative talent behind Brian Hoffman Custom Guitars. I hope you enjoyed that interview. I really enjoyed it. Like I said earlier, I feel really privileged to have had the opportunity to speak to him, especially about something like that, because it's just so different and so interesting. And I think maybe a lot of people don't know that he's doing that. Check it out. You can go to brianhoffmancustomguitars.com and see what kind of work he does. And if you are looking for a custom guitar, fill out the form and talk to the guy. You just never know. I don't even have a clue how much they are, but from the sounds of it, it's a lot of people like you and I that are buying those guitars. So check it out, especially if you love death metal and you love guitars that are all pointy and use really cool exotic woods. Check it out. I love playing music to some of the music that he wrote. He was mentioning Sacrificial Suicide by Deicide. He wrote that when he was like 15 years old. Like, holy shit. And then Lunatic of God's Creation. And like I was mentioning earlier, that album 24 years ago, and it still really stands the test of time, and it's just become so classic. And then the band Amon, if you have not had a chance to listen to the band, you really should. Great band, great album. I absolutely love the music. And not just saying this because of doing the interview, but I actually, comparatively to the recent Deicide, I actually really like the Amon. I think a lot better, but I don't know, maybe a little bit of personal bias, but absolutely love it. That's from the album Liar in Wait. It was released in 2012. So check it out if you haven't. Listen to it, and I think you'd really enjoy it, especially if you love death metal.